Welcome, and thank you for volunteering to be a judge for the Lincoln-Douglas debate. Your investment of time during this debate is crucial to the educational experience of our students who are learning to be better communicators, sharper thinkers, and future leaders. We simply could not do this without your help. If you've not judged a round before, you may be wondering whether you're qualified to judge a Lincoln-Douglas debate round. You may never have even watched a debate round, but that's okay. You are qualified to judge, and hopefully this short training will give you greater confidence to be an effective judge. Because you already participate in some communication activities, you are ready to judge. Let's start with a couple of main thoughts. First, it is the speaker's job to communicate with you. They should guide you along in the process. It is not your job to be a debate expert. We want the students to be able to speak to the thinking man and woman on the street, so you will evaluate the debate on this basis. So what is debate? As you might have guessed, debate involves two opposing teams that argue on an idea. In debate, this idea is referred to as the resolution. During the question and answer time, we will introduce you to this year's resolution that will be debated during this tournament. There are two teams, the affirmative team, who upholds the resolution, and the negative team, whose job it is to refute the affirmative team. Sometimes shorthand of AF for affirmative or neg for negative is used. During the tournament, the debaters will alternate sides based on pairings, brackets, or even a coin toss. They don't know what side they're arguing until shortly before the debate round. That obviously makes the rounds challenging and interesting. Lincoln-Douglas debate is also called values debate because the debaters will be defining, analyzing, and arguing values. Values are principles which are universally recognized by a society, culture, or group. Lincoln-Douglas debate is a one-on-one debate between two debaters, unlike team policy, which has two teams of two debaters. One full round of Lincoln-Douglas debate can last up to 38 minutes. Your role as a judge is to listen to the debate, decide which team best supports their position through evidence and logical argument, and then cast a vote for the affirmative team to uphold the resolution or cast a vote for the negative team against the resolution. And lastly, provide written feedback. As part of the feedback, you will be grading the speakers and assigning speaker points and ranking the speakers. I will cover this in greater detail in a moment. One thing we ask you not to do is to request or accept any written materials offered by the debaters before or during the rounds. After the round, you may need to ask for specific evidence that was raised during a round to resolve an evidence dispute, but don't take any materials with you from the debate. You should silently listen to the debate rounds without making any comments or asking any questions. Before starting a speech, they may ask you if you're ready for them to begin in case you're still writing. Debate speeches are limited by time, so don't extend a debater's time. A timer will be in the room with you, and they will let the debaters know when their time is up. The debaters also have responsibilities. They are responsible to make their ideas and arguments clear to the judge. This includes communicating their debate theory, organizing the round, and providing you with necessary details about their topic. If you judge more than one round in this tournament, you will need to make sure that you don't judge the same debaters twice. The volunteers at the ballot push table should check this with you. You also don't want to judge anyone you know or know well, so that you will not give the appearance of bias or favoritism. The staff in your training room will give you the location and start time of the debate round you will judge. You will need to find out where your debate room is and go to your room at the assigned time. Your ballot should have the names of your debaters already filled in. If not, you will need to write their names on the ballot as well as your own. Ask the staff if you have any need for help. During preliminary rounds, there's usually only one judge per round. In later elimination rounds, there will be 3 or more judges, always an odd number. You should have a timekeeper who will sit next to you in the room and not only time the rounds, but indicate the times to the debaters in a countdown fashion. If not, most debaters are able to time the rounds themselves. You can expect the debaters to introduce themselves to you, shake your hand, and tell you what speaker number they are. They may also ask you, what is your judging philosophy? Judges who have more experience sometimes have specific things they look for in rounds, such as the use of credible evidence, the use of logic and reasoning. If you don't have a judging philosophy, that is fine. The debaters will still know what to do. The Lincoln-Douglas round is divided into 7 parts, It starts with the affirmative constructive, which is followed by 3 minutes of cross-examination. Then the negative constructive speech is given, followed by 3 minutes of cross-examination. Then the first affirmative rebuttal and the negative rebuttal, and finally the second affirmative rebuttal. As you can see, the affirmative gets to go first and last, as they have the burden of persuasion. Each team is also allotted 3 minutes of preparation time between speeches, which they can allocate as they wish, except they can't use prep time before cross-examination. The affirmative constructive speech can be organized in different ways, but typically it's organized in the following way. First, an introduction is given, a statement of the resolution, definition of terms, discussion of the value and possibly a criterion, contentions or arguments, and then a conclusion. The negative team will then conduct cross-examination for 3 minutes. There's no prep time before cross-ex. This is the only direct interaction the debaters will have. It may seem a little strange at first, but the debaters will actually face you during the cross-examination instead of each other, as they're instructed to present their case to the judge rather than to each other. The negative constructive speech will refute the affirmative case. They will have their own organization, which often includes some of the same elements, such as an introduction, a statement of the resolution, definition of terms, discussion of the value and criterion, and then their contentions or their arguments, followed by a conclusion. During the rebuttal speeches, the debaters will clarify the important arguments in the rounds. They cannot introduce new arguments, but they can offer additional support to bolster arguments made in the constructive speeches. During rebuttal, the debaters need to refute the opposing team's arguments while also reasserting their own case. Debaters will often propose voting issues, points they will make to you as a judge which they think are important in deciding the round. The progression and organization of the debate round is referred to as the flow. Flow sheets, which have 5 columns, one for each speech, are often used by judges to track the debate. You may have been offered a flow sheet at the ballot table. You can also use a notepad or any other method to take notes. The flow sheet is just for your use only, and it's not turned in, but it is useful to track the arguments and the evidence presented by the debaters, and to track how well the opposing team responds to points and arguments. These notes will also help you determine which team won the round and help you to offer feedback and show the reason for your decision. To fill out your ballot, you will make 2 independent decisions. First, you'll reward individual speaker ability, and then you will vote to uphold the resolution, that is, the vote for the affirmative team, or not, voting for the negative team. And it's very important in these rounds that you set aside your personal biases and your opinions on the resolution. You are judging the ability of the students to organize and present arguments, rebut assertions, and make logical connections. You may personally agree or disagree with the underlying case, but you need to evaluate the rounds as objectively as you can. Remember, the teams may have to take an unpopular position in a round and may not have a choice. You're to leave your personal opinions and your biases at the door and judge the round only on the strength and quality of each team's arguments and evidence. Here's what the student ballot looks like. There's a box for each speaker where you can write comments, offer feedback, score their presentations, and rank the speakers. To determine speaker ranks, use your speaker point guideline to help you determine how each speaker debated. You will add up the speaker points for each speaker in 6 different categories and rank in order of who gets the most total points. Each category can receive 1 to 5 points, so there's a maximum of 30 speaker points available. If you have a tie, break the tie by simply choosing between the speakers and ranking them in the order you deem appropriate. Because the speaker points are independent from who wins the round, it's actually possible to have a low-ranked speaker win the round. At the bottom, you will circle affirmative or negative for the winner of the round. You'll also see a space there for a double loss, which is rarely used in instances where there's been a serious misconduct by both teams which deserves this kind of disciplinary result. Finally, you will provide written feedback to the debaters to explain the reason for your decision. You can write on the back of the ballot if you need more room. Remember, you need to set aside your biases and personal opinions. Judge the round based on the criteria we previously discussed and based only upon the evidence and arguments presented during the rounds. The debaters do not get to choose their side. Don't hold them personally responsible for the side they must argue, even if it may be an unpopular position to take. In other words, don't become a third debater in the room. And don't fill in their arguments with your own knowledge or opinion. However, if you hear arguments that you don't think are persuasive or you have some insights on how they might present their cases differently, You should feel free to share those thoughts. The debaters greatly appreciate constructive feedback that will help them become better debaters. The feedback is extremely important to help the debaters learn how to improve their skills. So please offer as much constructive feedback as you can. And positive feedback is always appreciated. In deciding who won, you should ask yourself the following about the affirmative case. Does the affirmative interpretation correspond with the resolution? Has the affirmative identified a value, presented arguments supporting the importance of his or her value? Have they upheld the resolution with good analysis of the resolution with good arguments? Were they more persuasive in urging you to vote in favor of the resolution? Did they do an adequate job of addressing the arguments and refutations raised by the negative side? When evaluating the negative side, you should ask yourself the following about the negative case. Did the negative side introduce a more persuasive interpretation of the resolution? Did the negative present arguments that persuaded you to vote against the affirmative interpretation of the resolution? Did the negative adequately address the arguments raised by the affirmative side? And did they present his or her own value arguments that supported its importance? And were they more persuasive that his or her value is more important than the affirmative value? When the round is over, the debaters will ordinarily shake your hand and thank you for judging the round. You should turn your notes over so they can't see your ballot, and you should not offer any comments or feedback at this time beyond a smile and maybe a thank you. And by all means, do not disclose your decision as to who won the round. Also, don't ask for comments from observers in the room. You may ask to see evidence for clarification or accuracy if you need to be sure, but return any evidence before you leave the room. And then please proceed to the judge's room right away to complete your ballots privately. When you get to the judge's room, you will also fill out a speed ballot that simply has your vote, affirmative or negative, speaker points, and speaker ranks. This is turned in right away so the ballot tabulation team can determine pairings for the next round. Once you've completed the ballot and your written feedback, please turn them in and do not discuss your vote with anyone, especially debaters or the debaters' parents. Thank you again for volunteering to judge. We'll now take a few minutes to answer any questions you might have.